Welcome to the October 2018 Village of Buchanan Board Meeting. In case of emergency, please use the exit door there that's marked emergency exit only, or use the stairwell behind the elevator. Please do not use the elevator. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have Sergeant Shane Farrell lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, like I said, it's a stormy, wet night, flooding, so I thank everyone who made it here this evening. First, we're going to start with the approval of minutes for the August 7th, 2018 board meeting. Any questions, corrections?
I actually have one.
Okay.
My name was spelled wrong.
Oh, no, how could that happen?
I was expecting that to be Julius in front of it or something.
Julius?
No, it's spelled incorrectly. It's not C-A-E-S-A-R.
Let me
See,
mark that.
August 7th?
August 7th.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean your first?
Yeah, just spelled incorrectly. That just C-E-S.
C-E. It just,
C-E-S-A-R-E.
it was C-A,
That's all,
C-E.
minor thing, but
Okay.
I'm not used to seeing my name spelled that
I'm
way.
so sorry.
Oh,
My deepest apologies.
don't worry
Okay,
about it.
the correction is noted. Any other any other comments on the,
Nothing from me.
No, nothing.
okay, on a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving along to the August 28th, 2018 meeting.
Nothing from me.
Nothing here.
Nothing here.
On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And moving on to the September 4th, 2018 board meeting.
Nothing from me.
Okay,
All good.
good. On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And now we have a presentation. Shane Farrell was promoted to sergeant last month, and we have a presentation. And Chief, are you going to be doing that?
I can do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Shane, if you could come up to the podium, up to the front of the room, and whoever, if you want to bring your family with you also. And you have to introduce everybody. We haven't met your family.
So like Alex, the little one's
Hi.
Madison.
Oh,
and she's
cute.
the
Oh.
mom.
Oh, how nice. Nice to meet you guys. Cute.
So first, we'd like Shane's daughters, each one of them, to present him with his first set of sergeant stripes, if you want to give that to your daddy.
Aw.
And he'll need many more for his uniforms, and I'd like your wife to pin your sergeant's badge on your dress uniform.
All right. Now it's super official. Okay, if we could, yeah, get some pictures.
I will. There you go. Wait, I need Brian in. Got the whole family.
All right, great. Congratulations again. I'm gonna have you.
Shane, did you have red hair when you were young?
Not like that.
Wow. That's so cute. Okay, thank you. Dwayne, if you could do the moment of silence for Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like you all to join me, my neighbor and good friend, Mr. George Paul, World War II veteran, was with Eisenhower back in the day. Great guy. When I moved up here in '95, he was there for me and my family, and certainly miss him. Fantastic person. great neighbor, you know, and retired Yonkers fireman. And we lost him last Wednesday. So if you'd all stand and join me just in a moment of silence for a great veteran. Thank you.
And longtime village resident.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And our condolences go out to his wife and daughters and grandkids. He was a great guy, and if you had a chance to meet him and had to hear a few of his jokes, you would have loved him just as much as I do. Thank you so much, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, comments from the floor, agenda items only. Okay, new business. Public hearing on proposed law repealing Local Law 1 of 2016, amending the Code of the Village of Buchanan to reflect said repeal. So this, I'm going to read it, but this basically is, we had allowed a senior multifamily development in an M1 district. The company that was wanted to build was CHI Multifamily Project. We've talked about this several times. They were denied their funding for their project. The state denied their funding for the project. So now what we're going to do is repeal the law. The time has expired. So we're going to make a motion to open the public hearing first.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, I think we touched on this last month. Some of the board members spoke about this. I know Trustee Funchin is not here this evening. I know he spoke about it. Any other board members would like to comment on this?
Yeah, I would. So, just one thing I want to understand, if it was written into that resolution, the sunset clause, that after, whatever the fixed period of time was it 2 years, was it? Or 1 year? I forget.
1
1
year,
year.
and then there was.
And then there was an extension.
You could have extended it for 2 6 months.
Yeah, okay, we don't have to go back into that. But, so if that was written into that resolution, why does it require a new resolution to enact it?
Because I wanted it publicized, and I want to send it up to the state.
Just
to
so
make
there's
it
no
count.
doubt. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, understood.
It did, the sunset clause on its own expired,
Right,
but this will amend the code, put it back to the way it was.
okay. So I think, as some of you know, and some may not, I was probably the one big supporter of this project all along. And so many things we do here as a board, we think similarly, and, we might have slightly differing opinions, but this one was probably, in the 9 years I've been on the board so far, definitely the biggest difference I've had with the board. I think this thing started out with a lot of promise. We had a very reputable developer that early on probably could have gotten funding. He had a good reputation, but after this got dragged out for about a year or so, he dropped out of the scene, and then we got other people taking it over that were not quite as fun to work with or as trustworthy, in our opinions. I'm sorry to see that this thing failed, that it didn't get picked up on right away, but it did kind of turn into a mess. I think that I was not here at the last meeting. I did watch it on online. I still a little bit surprised at some of the reasons given against this thing. There were. I think it was an emotional issue for a lot of people, and I don't know that everybody was always being logical, but it does look out over Lens Cove Park and a 65-acre wooded parcel. Even though Entergy is nearby and there are other industrial sites nearby, there is a residential street nearby as well, and there is the new complex by the water in Peekskill with restaurants and entertainment, so I think it could have worked there. I actually I think that the reporter with the Journal News, David McKay, that covered this, I actually think he did a good job covering this. Basically, the state denied funding, and they gave two main reasons, and one was traffic, and the other was pollution in the area. And as you, Madam Mayor, said at the last meeting, there's really not a pollution problem there. And when the reporter, David Mackey, asked the state to supply what it is that they did not provide, he foiled any reports on the pollution. There was no study done. I don't know what the state was thinking, but it doesn't seem like they had any substantiation behind their reasons for denial. The traffic, when the reporter did his own little traffic study, sitting there and counting cars, and when he spoke to people from the state DOT, they said, we don't really know of any, it doesn't seem like there's a traffic situation there. So I don't know, it was just a muddled mess. I think it could have worked. It was seniors who are fine residents in any municipality. It was affordable housing, not low-income housing. So I'm sorry that it didn't work out. It would have meant maybe a little something on our tax base, certainly not enough to solve our issues going forward, but every contribution to the pool helps, I think. So anyway, let's hope we can come up with some other good use for that property.
Yes. I'd like to comment on your comment. I find it interesting that the study that David McKay Wilson did was, I believe, from 8:30 to 10 o'clock, 10:30. It was something like that. It was after the rush hour. We have to remember there's 1,000 people, over 1,000 people that work at Entergy. So there's not 1,000 people that go in at 6 or 7 o'clock. The shift starts around 6 or 7 in the morning. There's two different shifts. So he needed to be there about 5:30 to see at least 300 or 400 cars.
5:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
All right, your point's taken. He didn't
Yeah.
do it. I don't think he covered all different times of day. I once did something similar when the library was being built behind my house, but I went out at the rush hour. I went out in the middle of the day. I went out on a weekend. I went out on a weekday. So it sounds, I think you're probably right there. I don't think he did it very scientifically, but.
And one of the other
Anyway, that
things-
would have come up with site plan approval. They had to study, they had to determine if
The
it was,
traffic and-
if there was an issue with that. So, there were still reviews of that within the village process.
And I think probably I don't know for sure. It's hard to get the information. But I think one of the things is what's exactly behind the building. We have a garbage company there now, and I would imagine the smells in the summer of garbage cans, not garbage cans, but garbage trucks. So I think the biggest problem would be smells, plus you also have to remember we have our sewer treatment plant that always doesn't smell like roses.
You have to pretty much walk up to the tank to smell that. To my knowledge, we've never gotten any complaints from residents about the smell from the sewer plant.
All right, but if it's a possibility, if it's a windy day or something. So I think that was factored in, but I don't know for sure what the whole thing was. So the funding was denied by the state, and it said because of pollution, so it wasn't very specific, the pollution that they were referring to. And that's going to be a big industrial site once the decommissioning starts. We don't know when that is, but when the decommissioning starts, it's going to be a huge construction demolition area. So I don't know what the reasons were that they denied it.
Yeah, I'd just like to weigh in. That particular project, when we had the first developer on board, as Nick said, was very encouraging. Part of the deal was to enlarge the firehouse or add on to it for a ladder apparatus or just a bigger apparatus that we are still in the process of trying to get that straight as we go forward. And there were some other things, including the the White Street property and maybe some development that could be done down there. So I was certainly for that development at that time. When they switched developers and kind of cut back on the number of units that would be more or less under the control of the village, I it lost my support at that particular point. And then really, when it came down to it, I was seeking one more unit. I think the number was 11 or 12, and they settled on 11, and that 12th one would have brought my vote to the table. But it's kind of ironic now that we spent a year and a half going back and forth with this, only to have the state not put in any funding. And I think the residents should be aware, it was never the Village of Buchanan land. It was a private developer on private land. So we had only limited, say-so on to what would be developed there. And, it passed, as Nick said, on a very tight vote. And it's unfortunate that, it's died in the bureaucracy of Albany. But certainly the interest of the village was put forth in terms of making sure that we would have senior housing, that it would be affordable, and that Buchanan residents would be at the front of the line in terms of its development. And didn't happen, and we're moving on. And as the mayor says, in the larger scheme of things with Indian Point now, it is indeed the larger scheme of things.
Yeah, it certainly is. Any comments from the floor? The public hearing is still open on this? No? Okay. All right, on a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll read the resolution. Whereas a resolution was duly adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Buchanan for a public hearing to be held at the Municipal Building, 236 Tate Avenue in Buchanan, repealing Local Law 1 of 2016 and amending the Code of the Village of Buchanan to reflect said appeal. Whereas notice of said public hearing was duly advertised in the official local newspaper, and whereas said public hearing was duly held at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Village Board on October 2nd, 2018 at 7:30 at the Municipal Building, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to said proposed local law or any part thereof. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Buchanan, after due deliberation, finds it in the best interest of the Village of Buchanan to adopt said local law. Now be it therefore resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Buchanan hereby adopt said local law number 4, 2018, repealing local law 1 of 2016 and amending the Code of the Village of Buchanan to reflect said repeal, a copy of which is attached hereto and made a part of this resolution. And be it further resolved that the village clerk be and hereby is directed to enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting in the local law book of the Village of Buchanan, and to give due notice of the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of State of the State of New York. On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries unanimously. Okay, so we have a very short agenda this evening. The next resolution is appointing a seasonal employee. Whereas during the fall season, it is custom of the village to employ staff on a seasonal basis to assist at the Highway Department with the leaf removal season. And whereas it is the desire of the village board to hire staff for a period of time beginning on October 19th, 2018, and concluding on December 20th, 2018. Now be it therefore resolved that the following individual be and hereby are appointed, subject to the village hiring policies, as a fall seasonal employee to be paid at the hourly rate set forth. So it is Alex Fonseca, $11 an hour. Be it further resolved that the village administrator be and hereby is authorized to place the aforementioned individual on the village payroll for the fall season and to pay the salaries as set forth above. So this is something we do every fall. We hire seasonal employees for leaf removal, and now we have 2 employees for the fall season. On a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
What's the New York State minimum wage currently? Isn't it?
It was
Isn't
phasing
Isn't
into
it stepping
different-
up?
Phasing in, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to read
It's still
that.
below 11?
It's still below.
Okay.
Okay, information from officers and departments, Justice Court Report for August 2018. The amount was $4,301, received and filed. Zoning Board Minutes, June 2018, received and filed. Police Reports, August 2018, received and filed. Attorney's Report, Stephanie, do you have anything for us this evening?
Briefly, so I've given you a sexual harassment policy. It's based on a model from the New York State Legislature. In April, they passed some laws. They put out a model policy and a model complaint form, which I'd like you to adopt at the next meeting. By October 9th, the municipalities, any state employer, has to have a sexual harassment policy. We do have one, but this is much more specific, and it's a legal requirement now. So if you would read it, I'd like to put it on for next month and formally adopt it, call me.
For the
the
next
meeting,
meeting to
yep.
vote on, you mean?
Or we could talk about it at the workshop if you have any issues or
So,
questions.
yeah, maybe the
Take a
board
look
could
at it.
read through this, and then, you know, if any questions, we could do at the workshop.
It's pretty comprehensive, and I think it meets all the requirements, and obviously, that's the model code put out by the legislature, so,
All right, and it's Stephanie approved.
and it's Stephanie approved.
That's all we need to know. Thanks, Steph.
And that's it, that's all I have tonight.
Okay, great, thanks. And Kevin, what do you have for us
Sure.
tonight?
First, I got a date change we got to talk about. November's board meeting falls on Election Day.
Oh, okay.
So I know the organizational meeting says we usually move it to the Wednesday, the day after, so I just wanted to run that by everybody.
So
November
November
7th?
7th.
7th, just so everybody note the time change, I mean the date change, no time change. Okay,
So it's Wednesday, November 7th.
yes,
Thank you.
And if we could put that on the rolling screen, too. and-
absolutely. We'll put it on Facebook too, sure.
Perfect.
All right, so we reached out to our contractor at the wastewater plant, some changes to the sludge contract, minor changes, minor tweaks, and we'll have that probably for adoption at the November meeting. Paving's underway in the village, we're starting on 4th Street, we're gonna do some curbs, and we also have catch basins to get done. So they expect to be done by the end of the month.
And the catch basins, too?
Catch basins too, that's what they said their work period is gonna be, obviously it's weather dependent too, so.
I'm not going to be doing too much
Days
tomorrow, I
like
don't
today
think.
don't help, but,
Yeah.
just wanna let everybody know, the water meter letters have gone out, so
Mm-hmm.
you should get them at your home, and you can start, I think they're gonna start scheduling as early as October, the week of October 8th.
Okay.
Also, 2 Mondays ago, we got all the striping done in the village, and we piggybacked with the town on that, and we got a really good price, even better than the one the previous time when we did it ourselves. We put the bid out ourselves. And that's really all I have for tonight.
With the striping, I know people thanked me. I ran into them, and they thanked me for Tate Avenue and Broadway, especially Broadway. We're also going to be doing, with the road work, we're going to be doing some patchwork also. Do you have any idea right now how many catch basins we'll be able to get to this year?
They base it on a time and materials contract, so it's really gonna depend on what condition they're in, how much time they spend on each one. We have a certain amount of money, obviously, in our budget, and we're gonna try to get as many done as we can. We're hoping for maybe 15, 20, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay, all right, that would be great, because they need some help. Okay, so,
Can I go first?
Well, Mayor's report.
you know what? I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to go last.
Let's get it
this time.
over with, right?
Yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking.
I had about an hour-long thing planned, but being that there's tornadoes in the attorney's hometown, we're going to let her get out of here. One thing I wanted to let people know is the board is still in discussions regarding multifamily dwellings here in the village. A large part of our look into this is a concern about illegal apartments, people dividing up their houses and creating spaces. And so, you know, we're trying to discuss different ways that we, you know, and we've already started, the building inspector has already started doing some work with this. We're looking into different ways that we can strengthen our enforcement. And I'm just talking about this now and asking people If you know of something and you would like to anonymously report it, feel free to reach out to the Village Hall here and speak to the building inspector or the village administrator, or feel free to leave a note in my mailbox. My name is Nick Zachary, and I have one of those slots when you walk into the Village Hall. You can put something in there, or pretty much anybody on the board that you happen to know. Madam Mayor, I'm not going to be here at the next workshop. I'll be out of town.
I will not be here either. I will be in a cast.
All right,
So-
then we all jump in.
Okay.
This will be here.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So it's really shaping up there. That's all I wanted to mention tonight. Thank you.
We'll have a quorum, yeah. Okay, Trustee Jackson, would you like to?
Yes, thank you,
Next.
Madam Mayor. First of all, Halloween is approaching sooner than we would like it. I mean, it's already fall and the leaves and everything, but certainly be careful on Halloween night and be careful all the time. Our children are back in school, and certainly your diligence and observing the road rules are certainly necessary. Trash in the catch basins, it flows down to the lakes and streams, so be aware of that. And as always, curb your dog. Curb your dog, because we don't want to have the poop in unnecessary places. So there's
well
a couple of receptacles that are out that are new in front of the Village Hall. So be courteous to your neighbors and their lawns, and that's about it.
So Dwayne, so are you saying that people shouldn't walk on other people's lawns and have their dog do their business, and the dog should actually go, if it has to go, at the curb?
I totally agree with you.
Okay, thank you. That's one of my public service announcements every year, but thank you, because we're getting a lot of complaints about people walking their dogs and having the dogs do their business on other people's lawns when they're trying to keep their lawns nice. So just please, let's be considerate of our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Pasquale.
Yes, ma'am. Again, I'd just like to congratulate Sean, Sergeant Farrell, and
Shane.
Sergeant Farrell, I said.
Yeah,
Oh.
he's right.
I said Sergeant Farrell. Right.
Sergeant Shane Farrell, how's that?
Yeah.
Kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, yeah. And it was good to see that your family came, and it's a pleasure to meet all of them. And, you're an asset as a cop here, and you'll be a bigger asset as a sergeant, and congratulations on a well-deserved promotion. I attended the 9/11 ceremony was it 3 weeks ago, I think it was. And again, for those of you who have never gone to that memorial, you should really take some time and go out and see it. It's a good place to reflect, and the ceremony was so beautiful and so solemn. And me being a first responder, being able to just kind of sit there and hear the names of other first responders that weren't as lucky as I was, made me reflect, and that day seemed so much like that day that it happened. The weather was beautiful. It was just unbelievable. It just brought back so many memories, and it's one of the few times that I can go into my closet and pull out my old PD dress uniform and put it on and feel close to these guys. But for those of you that have never gone, you should really spend some time there. Buchanan Day was great. The committees that were all involved in that did a wonderful, wonderful job. I love that idea. It was almost like kind of like a flea market look to it. Then they had the rides in the back. I thought it was great. And it seemed that it was a big hit with everybody else who came. And also, last thing is Happy Columbus Day to everybody. And that's all I have.
Okay.
May I just, regarding the 9/11 memorial, it hasn't come up in a while. Older residents might remember when we did this, but for newer residents, it was about 10 years ago that the town of Cortland and the villages of Croton and Buchanan, in a cooperative effort, went through a whole process designing a memorial. There was a group of people involved, including an architect, an artist, designers,
Project
and
manager.
project manager, yes, Janet Monero,
Monero.
who was incredible. But anyway, the three communities got a piece of steel from the wreckage of the Trade Center, and this memorial, it was built by an effort of the three municipalities. It is on the Riverwalk in Croton. It was the best location that the committee did after reviewing several sites. If you go, Sinasquo exit is closed right now. I guess you would go to, you could
Next
go over
exit.
to the 9A exit. I think there's a parking area, and you could do the walk along the river,
Yeah.
heading north from there, and it's about a 15-minute walk out. It's because you can't drive right to it, many people don't go, but if you get a nice day this fall, as Trustee Pasquale said, highly recommended. It's a beautiful memorial in a very beautiful spot to a very fitting cause. So,
And I think the Village of Buchanan next year sponsors the 9/11 ceremony. I think it's our turn next year.
We split, they've changed it, we split the cost.
Okay.
So, I mean, Croton they're there, they have the facilities to do it, and we just split the cost.
Okay, that's better. Let them,
May I
Stay
just
at
take
home.
back my time? I
oh,
forgot
sure,
something.
absolutely.
Okay. Chief Tubbs always gives me a selection of police reports every month, which I read, and I'm going to highlight some of the ones that I think were really important here. This one, I think I'd mentioned it in the last meeting about the breaking into parked cars. And on Thursday, September 20th, overnight to the early morning hours, numerous unlocked cars through Buchanan were entered and property was taken. In each instance, the car was left unlocked. Residents can help prevent this type of crime, which is taking place all throughout Westchester, by simply always keeping their cars locked. I remember when I was a police officer and we used to see that, these perpetrators would walk down the block and they would just grab handles. And that's all they would do. Just grab a handle. One was open, take whatever they had to, close the door, and leave. Another one here that I'd like to highlight is on Wednesday, September 19th at a midnight tour, Officer Lochner arrests a 54-year-old Brooklyn resident on Albany Post Road for multiple vehicle and traffic violations, including driving with a suspended license. On September 14th, Officer Palmetto arrests a 28-year-old Wappinger Falls resident on Westchester Avenue for multiple vehicle and traffic violations, including speeding and driving with a suspended license. And the last one here, which is which I think we should mention, Officer Buddy responds to a 911 call on Tuesday, September 4th at 8:30 p.m. for a call of a baby not breathing. Officer Buddy aids the baby and administers oxygen until he is relieved by paramedics and ambulance personnel. I think Officer Buddy, that's the second time he's saved the life of an infant over the last maybe 6 months, Brian, something like that. Yeah. So
wow.
Kudos to these guys. Job's well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Trustee Pasquale. I was at the 9/11 memorial ceremony. It was a beautiful ceremony. Trustee Pasquale was there in attendance, and also Trustee Jackson. Like I said, it's a very sad day, but it's, we do need to remember these people. And one thing that I was really proud of are, there weren't many fire department people there, but our fire department showed up, not in uniform. They were just coming from a fire. And here they are in their turnout gear, and they made it to the ceremony. So I was very proud that they represented the village, that they were able to come. So they did us proud. In September, the state task force meeting. We occasionally have a state task force meeting. We're still working through a lot of things. Next month, I will be prepared to give some updates on what's going on. I'm going to give you worst-case scenario, and I'm going to give you best-case scenario. So I will be discussing that with everyone next month. I'll make a statement. One of the biggest things I want to say is we were very lucky to get a $100,000 grant from Senator Murphy. We put the grant in, Kevin, how long? God, it was way over a year ago. It's a process. It's a process to get money. So we were fortunate enough to get $100,000, which we used to rehab our roof at the Highway Department, which was in pretty tough shape. I was with Senator Murphy last week. We went down to the garage. Of course, we didn't get on the roof, but we looked at different things. And so I can honestly say Senator Murphy has been a very good friend to this village since the start of the announcement in January that Entergy was closing. He was the first person that called me and said, Mayor, what do you need? And of course, my first response is, we need $3 million a year. But we're working on that. So I honestly have to say he has been very supportive of this village. I just remember, I go back to when we had I had to go up to Albany. It was a couple months later, and I had to testify in front of a committee, and I didn't get to testify. It was till like 5, 6 o'clock that day. So I sat through the whole committee hearing, and Senator Murphy was on the committee, and I sat back and I smiled, and because he was not giving them an inch. He's a fighter. He was fighting for us. He was fighting for the school district. He was fighting for the town. And I just had to smile, and I had to laugh, and I'm like, there's the man I want backing me up. So he was able to also get $24 million in the budget, the New York State budget, for the cessation fund. And we all know what the cessation fund is, but it's a fund that the state has that compensates communities for loss of energy plants. So Senator Murphy is a friend of this village, and I have to really thank him for his support. Also, he recently gave $8,000 to the Buchanan Engine Company for equipment. They need a lot more equipment, but it's a start. So, he's been very receptive to helping us. And I think, and the only other thing is, please look in the newsletter. December, the Village of Buchanan is sponsoring the Pearl Harbor Day Memorial Ceremony. That will probably be on the second floor. So anyone that would like to attend, please come. And I think that's all I have for tonight.
Let me just,
Sure.
one of the things that you brought my attention back to the Montrose VA, and for any veterans in our community, the opening of the pool.
Oh, yeah.
Which was very exciting. I remember in 1991 when the pool closed, actually. So it has reopened. It's a gorgeous facility, and again with County Legislator Testa and Senator Murphy and Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff and Congresswoman
Yeah, I
Lowy.
think Nita Lowy was the one that got the federal funding on that, which is
So for any
fantastic.
veteran who wants to go and use that facility, it is now open.
That's
And
wonderful.
and great, we'll be doing the Pearl Harbor ceremony again, because as George Paul was a World War II veteran, they are definitely leaving us every day, and their service is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely.
May I say one more thing?
Oh, see, you give him an inch.
Oh, my
Yes,
gosh,
sir.
I
Yes,
love
you can say
Vicky, my
something.
nudge. I forgot to mention also, congratulations to Officer Cabelli on his retirement. He got
Oh, that's right,
his
yeah.
3/4 approved, and he was a big asset to this department. It's really unfortunate that he had to leave because, because of an injury. But anyway, congratulations, and wish him all the best.
Yeah.
Comments from the floor? No comments from the floor? Okay. All right, so on a motion,
So moved.
second?
Second?
All in favor?
Motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn, that's what we're doing.
Aye.
Thank you for clarifying that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Have a great Buchanan Day. Thank you.
Thank you.